Welcome back to SuperTalk Outdoors from the Open Season Properties studio. Listen, Open Season Properties is a full-service real estate company with a team approach philosophy that ensures your needs are the highest priority, whether it's rural land sales, residential, or commercial properties. Open Season Properties markets and sells real estate in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia, and they're dedicated to the development of long-term client relationships and an unwavering commitment to service. Go to openseasonproperties.com to learn more. Listen, I said this a few weeks ago that my friend Mark Creech, who is a member of my little family hunting club, we call Delta Island Hunting Club, that we built a new mud room on our hunting club camp house, and that it really turned out incredible. And I mentioned at the time that, I've said many times about Mark Creech that his abilities to do things has sort of earned him the name MacGuyver, because as I have often said, you can give him masking tape and gum and he can fix a diesel engine. Well, I thought I would invite Mark, after I said that on the show, to join me. And so today, my friend Mark Creech, MacGuyver, is joining me from actually Delta Island Hunting Club. Mark, how you doing, my friend?
Doing great, Bubba. How are you doing this morning?
Doing great. Bubba is what my closest friends and family call me. In fact, at one point, Mark, you'll be interested to learn this. I thought about changing the name to Super Talk Outdoors with Bubba, and Kim Dillon, who's the president of the company, said, "Well, we got a lot of money invested in Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews, so maybe we should stick with that." But it makes me feel good to be called Bubba. You don't know me any other way, do you?
Not really. I mean, ever since our original association, it's been Bubba, and that's been, wow, how many, 25 years ago now?
Yeah, our kids played soccer together and all of that. But you went hunting this morning. How did it go?
Yeah, it did. Windy, as it has been. Got in there well before daylight. And I guess actually I had a deer blow at me on the way into the shooting house. You know, the one I was hunting this morning.
Yeah.
Travis. But anyhow, I got in there and got situated, and maybe 10 minutes later, a nice little basket 8-point came out, nice body deer, and he pranced around around in front of me, acting like he was searching for something. He sure looked like he was, but yeah, it was a thrill to see him this morning.
It was a great video. It really was. Mark, I want to peel back some layers a little bit. Again, I often talk to you about so many things. My wife, if something breaks at my house, I'll try, because I've learned actually a lot from Mark about how to fix stuff, because I wasn't raised being sort of a fix-it kind of guy. It wasn't until I got to Hurricane Katrina hit that I learned how to do things I never thought I would learn how to do. But my wife will say, "Have you called Mark yet? Just call Mark." He said he's our fix things thesaurus in our house. Where did this come from, Mark? Where did you first learn to do so many different things with your hands?
Well, I mean, without a doubt, it all started with my dad. He was a hands-on guy, still is to this day. He's still showing me how to do things to this day, as a matter of fact. I don't ever quit learning from him. He's 88 now, about to be 89. And he can still outrun me and probably take that belt out and use it if he has to still. But no, without a doubt and unequivocally, it all started with Dad.
Well, your dad, we've said this about your dad many times. He's our hero. We can only hope that we get his age and can do the things he can do. But he is quite an inspiration, isn't he?
Oh, always has been, and still look up to him just as much today as I did as a youngster. And I mean, yeah, I learned a lot from him in the world as I know it. But back then, in those days, if you could repair it, you did, versus going and replacing it. And that's the way I was reared. That's pretty much all I've known most of my life.
You can build stuff, fix stuff. I mean, just about anything. It's amazing to me to watch you in action. But as you've gotten older, if you look back, you actually were in the seafood business at one point, weren't you?
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Actually learned a lot from the seafood business. When you run a processing facility, shrimp, fish, crabs, you really learn how to do it all there as well. So that expanded on my knowledge. I can pretty much um, uh, repair any electrical motor or pump that's utilized to pump shrimp up to a peeling machine. I basically have all the skills of the millwright, learned it all. Electrician, you just about have to know it all in that industry.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that expanded on my knowledge as well.
well, it definitely did. That is for sure. Listen, one of the things that's interesting about you, Mark, is you used to hunt in McLean, Mississippi. When we come back on the other side of this of the show, I want to talk about. I actually visited you once there, but it's a great. I mean, it's a big piece of property y'all leased, and you did a lot of dog hunting and steel hunting and man drives, and you kind of did it all. But we'll come back to that because I don't want to break that story in two. Your love of the outdoors, where did that come from?
Dad, I mean, from day one, from the time I could walk, he had me in the woods, more so in the boat fishing. Uh, he really, really taught us, myself, my brothers and sisters, that you need to enjoy the outdoors. Uh, it's bounty, enjoy it, learn to embrace it, and that's what we did. Uh, I mean, he used to have us fishing out at Ship Island. He and a uncle of ours that's no longer with us, but anyhow, he had a rope tied to us, me and my younger brother Scott, so the tide wouldn't wash us away when we were wade fishing. And I mean, that was 5, 6 years old. So he instilled that in us way back then, and it stuck. And to this day, I repay the favor. We go, and he's on the boat with me whenever he can get away to go. And hopefully, we'll have many more trips to share together, along with my son as well.
Who is affectionately named what?
Hunter. So yeah, the story about that. So Ann, uh, she always said, I'd love twin boys because my mother's a twin. And I said, really? She said, yeah, if we have twin boys, I'm going to name one Hunter and one Fisher. And I said, wow. And so we ended up with Hunter. And he's embraced the whole world that I knew as well, hunting and fishing. And he's kind of a chip off the old block.
He is. He is. He's also a smart kid. He went to school, high school, and earlier grades with my son Jordan, and my son Justin as well. And he went on to get a great education, and he's kind of a database expert these days. And this day of artificial intelligence, he picked the right field to get into, didn't he, Mark?
Oh, definitely. I always say he got his brains from his mom, and I taught him how to be able to live in the outdoors and make it.
So you again, we'll get to McLean after the break, but you hunted in Stone County and a lot of in this area. When you first came up to when I got that first lease, then we had the opportunity. We were told by the owner to treat it like ours and go in and do with it what we want to. And we went in and built roads and food plots and all of that. When you and I walked it that first time, had you actually hunted in the Mississippi Delta before that?
First time I ever stepped foot in the Delta.
And that was about 8 years ago or 9 years ago. I've kind of lost track on the time, but
it's been a bit.
Yeah. But that experience of being able to spend time in the Mississippi Delta, that is special, isn't it, my friend?
Oh yeah, wouldn't take anything for it. It's expanded our horizon as far as the hunting and outdoor world in the state of Mississippi that we experienced early in life. And what you always say about the state of Mississippi being the outdoor of the world, it's true. I mean, from the coast to all three other state lines, you couldn't ask for a better environment to be able to enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, Alex Littlejohn, who formerly was with Nature Conservancy and now has a really big, important national job in the area of timber. But he said once on my show, he said, look, this is one of the only places in the world where you can go duck hunting and shoot a world-class buck and maybe go catch a redfish on the coast all on the same day.
Oh,
But it's
definitely.
true. If you played your cards
We,
right,
we've done
you actually could pull that off.
we have done that, on many occasions.
Isn't that it's amazing
It is.
that is the case. That is for sure. But hey, the one thing about being in the Mississippi Delta is it's not, the hunting's great, but the relationships are even better, aren't they?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, we have really nurtured some great relationships here in the Delta uh, with the Dunn family, which is who we lease the properties from. They've become like another family to us, and I think they've, in return, accepted us into their family, and it's
Yeah.
just been a real great match in heaven.
It really is. It's home away from home up there in the Mississippi Delta. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk more with Mark Creech, my friend MacGuyver, as we chat a little bit more about his early hunting experiences. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. Listen, are you looking to purchase the perfect piece of hunting property, upgrade your farm equipment, or have you been dreaming of owning your slice of heaven out in the country? Look no further than Mississippi Land Bank for your financing needs. For more than 100 years, farming families and landowners in North Mississippi have turned to Mississippi Land Bank for all kinds of financial solutions, whether it's for land, equipment, or livestock. For more information, visit mslandbank.com or go by and see one of their friendly staff at any of their offices. Mississippi Land Bank, love having them as a sponsor of Super Talk Outdoors. Now let's get back to my friend Mark Creech, Mark MacGuyver Creech. Listen, Mark, when I was president of the Mississippi Wildlife Federation back in the early 90s, there was this big debate happening about steel hunting and dog hunting and all of that. And I had not been in a dog hunting mode ever, but I came to appreciate the heritage of dog hunting was really important. And while it may be dwindling in Mississippi, there's still a lot to be said for that wonderful part of our hunting experience here in Mississippi. But when I got the opportunity to go visit you up in McLean, Mississippi, when you guys had that camp up there, you found a way to make steel hunting and dog hunting and man drives all peacefully coexist. It was kind of a part of your routine there. Talk a little bit about that.
We did. Our particular camp that we had at the time was in Greene County. We had a 5,000-acre lease. That was actually Scott Paper Company land back then. And we had dog hunting, we had steel hunting, and we had man driving all together. Now, the majority, I guess, of our hunting was man driving. It was productive, but at the same time, it was dangerous. You really had to pay attention to what you were doing. You had to try to make sure that everyone participating in that type of hunting was aware and was really watching where they were pointing weapons, how they were pointing weapons, in order for us to have a safe hunt. And on the productive side, I mean, we would harvest. We averaged $45 a year at that camp, and we had when we initiated it, there wasn't any lease. It was just a group of guys that got together, and there was 52 of us that hunted at that club. And that's, I guess, where I learned a lot of my skills as regard to dog hunting, steel hunting, and man driving. I miss it to this day. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the people as much as I did the hunting, and miss them a lot. It no longer is a viable hunting club. Of course, Scott Paper's properties all was sold off. It has changed hands considerably since, and everybody went their own different ways and are pursuing different hunting adventures these days.
But what was interesting about it, which is the same thing you would see when you go into most hunting clubs across the state of Mississippi, is often there are going to be generations of people there all at the same time. And that club had been around for a long time, hadn't it, Mark?
Oh, when I started hunting with them was in 1976, and they had been hunting in that method for. I mean, those guys at that time were in their 40s and 50s, and they had been hunting that way all their life. So yeah, it was a long tradition of that type of hunting, and that's where my son Hunter first started hunting. I actually had Hunter on the front of a four-wheeler in a baby carrier, strapped down. To this day, I don't know how Ann didn't bar me from taking him up there with me. But that was how young he was when he first started going into the outdoors with me. And,
Well, look, you know this. I'm a picky eater. Excuse me, picky sleeper. Really picky sleeper. I like to have my quiet. And I remember my son Jordan and I just went up for the day. We weren't planning to stay, but I was kind of glad when I got there we weren't planning to stay, because imagine this big room, and if I remember right, it had like a wood burning stove in the middle, and bunks along the side, and card tables, and you had to be tough to be in that club, didn't you?
you had to have some thick skin and a strong back to survive that group. And yeah, if you were sensitive to snoring, you'd have never made it.
And y'all played some cards too.
Oh Lord, my dad would play cards from after supper on a Friday night and Saturday night. They would actually play cards till 4 in the morning and go in there and change to get ready for the hunt the next day. And I mean, they did that for 20 years. And, it was amazing to watch them and enjoy it and see the camaraderie amongst that group. And it really instilled a lot of ethics and morals in the hunting world in a young person at that time. And that's where I still carry a lot of that to this day.
Hey, Mark, what's interesting is you're telling about something that was, because unfortunately that camp's not here anymore, and about your dad staying up to 4 o'clock in the morning playing cards and then going in and getting dressed to go hunting the next morning. But a lot of people who are listening to this say, "Hey, that's my club now." That's what I do now. They come in all kinds of stripes, don't they?
They do. They really do. And every generation has its different, I guess, brands of hunting, types of hunting, and I guess some of them do repeat, which is great that you have that opportunity. And a great state to be able to do that.
So what was interesting? The one time that I visited you guys up there, learned a lot, and I learned that the hunt is really more a tool. It's a mechanism to bring you guys together, so you can relive memories and make new memories and do it as a group. I mean, it was a very team approach to hunting what you did, and I thought after spending some time with y'all during the day that we were going to go steel hunting in the afternoon, and I remember saying to you, "There's no chance we're going to see anything about after all this." And my son and I, we weren't in the stand, I don't know, 15 minutes, and deer started showing up inside the food plot. I was kind of fascinated by that, but you weren't surprised by that at all, were you?
No, I mean, that property that we hunted all those years, it had a tremendous population of deer on it. And as disruptive as it was during the day with the dogs and the man driving, when we had dogs that we would release with us when we were man driving, they were little cur dogs. They wouldn't run very far like you walker dogs. But anyhow, I mean, you'd think with all that disruption throughout the day, the last thing you'd see in the afternoon would be a deer, but that wasn't the case. I mean, as long as you got in there, an hour or so before dusk and got settled in, you would see deer just about any time you went and sat in a shooting house.
Yeah, that was definitely my experience, and I'll always look back on it as a opportunity for me to have really kind of seen firsthand what that heritage is all about. And again, while it's dwindling, there's still wonderful dog hunting clubs in the state, and as we've said, and you hear often at the commission meetings, it's usually one or two bad apples that give all the dog hunters a bad name. It's unfortunate that's the way it is, but I would say that about steel hunters too. There's one or two bad apples that give steel hunters a bad name. That's just the way of the world, isn't it?
I think with any aspect of hunting and fishing, you're always going to have somebody that doesn't follow the norms, rubs someone the wrong way. But that's just part of it. You have to learn to live with it and move on and learn from it. And business as usual. Don't let it
We had a neighbor once, no names mentioned, not on any of the current leases that we have today, who felt like he owned the deer. And once one of my friend's sons was hunting from a particular stand, And this man drove into the food plot and parked. He parked in the food plot, scared my son's, I mean, my friend's son to death, scared us all to death. What would cause a person to do that? But that's just one of the things. I mean, good news there is that cooler heads prevail. Hopefully that
And
doesn't happen too often across the state of Mississippi, but we do know there are some people like that we have to be careful with and just be reasonable back to them and not react to them because bad things could happen. Isn't that true?
yeah, and in the long run, he ended up being a good friend of the club, especially the son father ended up buying a piece of property from him
He
later.
did. He did. The
And
piece of property that we were having trouble with, he ended up buying it. And what I went to him because this friend, Terry, his name is, he's in the business of having to negotiate big contracts involving the military and all that. He's just really good at developing difficult scenarios, relationships in difficult scenarios. And I said, Terry, look, I need you to do us a favor. We've tried everything we can do, and nothing seemed to work yet. Why don't you reach out and see what it is? And we figured, we're gonna kill them with kindness, and we're gonna reach out and be the best neighbors we can be. And it turned out really good. It's really good. Some people end up battling like the Hatfield and the McCoys over the deer. But we just said, gosh, that's not what it's about to us, man. We want to be good neighbors, and we're going to be good neighbors. That's the way we are in all of the leases that I'm involved with. But it can certainly be close calls. But that scenario Mark and I just talked about, I think probably many people who are listening to this now, some neighbors like that too. That is for sure. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to continue the conversation with Mark Creech, the guy I call MacGuyver. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. Listen, no matter what kind of hunting you're into, whether you're looking for 40 acres or 4,000, if you're looking to buy land, you need someone you can trust. He's a hunting land hunter. Call Lake Pickle from Ocean Season Properties at 601-750-2487. 601-750-2487. Lake Pickle, good friend of the show, incidentally. Lake's been on this show a bunch of times. He and Jordan Blissett, and they've spent a lot of time with our friend Will Primos, who was on the show just a couple of weeks ago. So let's get back to my friend Mark Creech. Mark, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. One of the things that's always impressed me about you is that when you are asked to do something, especially as it relates to your truck, your truck, listen to me, my truck is broken. As it relates to church, you are the first to say yes. You always say yes. Tell me about that.
Well, yeah, it's hard to say no to the priest when he's standing there looking at you with those dreary eyes and needing help. But that was instilled in me from an early age from my parents who are, devoted Catholics, and I fall right in line with that. And you always helped. We have an annual bazaar, and that bazaar has been going on. We just had the 98th annual church bazaar, and my mom and dad have been a participant in that for 67 years. And so when you're around that type of an environment and faith, it instills it in you. And I grasped that and have held on to it my entire life. And, your pastor's going to change. My dad always said, the priest comes and goes, but the church stays.
It does. Hey, what's interesting about you is you learned to cook for massive amounts of people, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Cooked the seafood and chicken and sausage gumbo for the bazaar for more years than I can remember. First started out, my parents always ran the cold drink booth, and that's where I started. They had me in there in a baby carriage, and but I eventually moved into the gumbo and did that for quite some time, and now that's passed on to someone else a little bit younger. And after you've done that for 45 years, it's time for someone else to take over and enjoy the fruits of their labor and please a lot of family and parishioners.
And then there's boiling shrimp and boiling crabs and making jambalaya and frying fish, and the list goes on, doesn't it?
We can do it all. Coming from an old family of Spanish and French, you learn how to cook at an early age, and everything revolved around food, and which is part of my nemesis to this day. And yeah, I learned it at an early age and have carried it through till now. And hopefully, I'll be cooking quite a few more dishes.
Yeah, I hope so, man. Look, what's interesting, most of you who are listening to the show today, you know this for a fact, that hunting season is a time when you gain weight. There's just I don't know what it is about hunting season, but you drop all of the barometer for what you can and can't eat gets blown up, and ice cream settles in, and fried food, and big gigantic breakfasts. I mean, you know the story. But Mark and I think this actually started a little bit last year, but it's continued into this year. We've said, we're gonna not come out of hunting season gaining weight. We're gonna focus on week to week and eating well and not overindulging. And we've been up there building that mud room, so we've been back and forth up there for weeks. It's not months, and so far so good, Mark. We're holding steady on that, aren't we?
Well, it's amazing to actually come up here and cook and eat what we eat, and actually have lost weight the last 2 weekends. So if we can keep that trend going, hopefully we'll come out of the season maybe a little bit lighter and not as heavy as when we came in.
You've heard me talk about my hunting son, who's been hunting and fishing with me since he was a teenager. He's like 40 years old now. Jake Carter. His family owns a cattle business, and so he bought some Wagyu up this past weekend. And man, that was some good meat, wasn't it, buddy?
That was pretty darn good, I have to admit.
I was sitting next to Hunter. You go ahead, say it again.
It was a lot to eat.
It was. Listen, I was sitting next to Hunter, Mark's son, and I had this beautiful filet on my plate, and I'd just take a little slice of it, and I'd slice the slice and take a bite and just sit back and savor it. And it was like eating this gigantic bowl of ice cream. And when it was gone, I was sad. I almost shed a tear when it was all said and done.
We were all sad.
But hey, say it again.
We were all sad when it was.
We were all sad. Isn't that true, man? Hey, listen, Mark, thank you for spending some time with me today, man. Good luck hunting this afternoon.
Great. Enjoyed being on the show, and thanks for the invitation.
It's been a lot of fun. Listen, I always say this: stay safe when you're in the outdoors. Always put safety first. Do not drop your guard. Unload your gun. Use safety straps. You know the drill. Look out for your fellow man when you're out there in the woods. Let's all have a wonderful memory-packed hunting season and not change our lives forever because we had an accident. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.